Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Media Beat with Maureen and Claire, episode 71, and another packed show. And this one is also going to be a good one because hot on the heels of our deep dive on Wikipedia that Claire did last week, we've come up with a similar one, which is something that we all know, a household name, but where did it come from? What is it? Where's it going? And this time, the subject is Netflix. Netflix and chill, without the chill. We don't need to go into what the chill is, just the Netflix. And Maureen's going to take us through this as well. And I'm sure Claire will have much to say as well. So, Maureen, with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to you and take us through your thoughts on Netflix.
Thank you, Oliver. Well, actually, it was a question that was put to me about a week ago, and it just struck me that I knew the answer, but I just thought, oh, this is a really interesting point of view. Someone said to me, who back in the day bought Love Film? Of course, it was Amazon. It was Amazon. Okay, but I was like, sort of, everyone was sort of struggling, going, "Oh, no, no, no! It was Netflix, wasn't it?" And it just struck a chord that I thought,
And everybody remembers Love Film. We should say what
yeah,
Love Film is. Some people may not have
no,
been
no,
born when Love Film was around.
exactly, Claire. Claire. So, what is Love Film, Claire? It was. Go ahead, Claire.
Well, it was that DVD. First of all, we had Blockbusters where we would go and we'd have to go into the shop and rent a VHS tape, and then there were DVDs, and then Love Film basically was a copycat of of Netflix, the original Netflix business in the US, which was suddenly saying, instead of going into the shop, we'll mail you the DVD, and they had built this, and this was Netflix's original business model. They had this very innovative at the time business model where you pay a subscription and this counts for 3 movies a month, but you had to send them back, otherwise you wouldn't get the next one. This was a whole thing that nobody knows what I'm talking about now, so I'm going to stop. But yes, it was a DVD rental business.
So it was known, building on Claire's wonderful explanation there, it was known as the Netflix of Europe, and it wasn't until around about 2011, or certainly sort of the start of 2010, 2011, that Netflix actually, Amazon stepped up and acquired a minority stake, and then took the entire company under its wings. But before that, and something that I wanted to point out, and I think this is a theme that I'd like to develop and look through the last couple of decades, and that is, it's really astonishing that you see Netflix and Amazon Prime really almost moving in lockstep with one another over the years. And we're always, whenever we speak about Netflix, don't we always couch it in the same terms as, and by the way, Amazon did this. And then if you ask someone, you say, like, what did you just watch last night? And they'll name the program, and you say, well, which service? And they cannot tell you. So it just amazes me. And this is something that way back in my and our probably MBA days, Claire, or others would say this is a classic leader-follower strategy. So I just really wanted to unpack that a little and just sort of throw out some highlights of what it actually means in reality, and the strategy deployed by both. And one thing that I'll fast forward, that my conclusion is whenever, and I think it's true, whenever we see Netflix leading, we see Amazon really scaling up. So we see the pioneer, that is Netflix, but we see the scaling this and doing it in a sort of me too, or sort of, the follower. Amazon is so close behind. So if we just fast forward, and something you already tackled there, Claire. So Netflix was set up by Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph. A typical kind of, oh, I'm really frustrated, I can never get the DVD that I want, so let's set up the company. And really, very, very quickly, within 2 years of setting up Netflix, they then launched a subscription model. So they actually went really very, very early with a flat fee. Do what you want with the films, no due dates really, and here's a flat fee for it. So it was amazing. And it wasn't until probably the noughties, so 2000s, when they really started to experiment with streaming technologies. So they moved away from the DVD by post and then moved into the technology that is streaming that we know it. But meanwhile, back over at Amazon's headquarters, they had no interest whatsoever in the 90s around video. All they were interested in was e-commerce and retail. That's it. That's it. But then around about mid 2000s, you recall, Claire, that Amazon launched something in the States which was called Unbox. And that was a similar early
Yeah.
download version of the films, a precursor to Prime Video, right? So you've got that happening. So it's only a few years apart, and then all of a sudden Amazon just gets that little flag out there and says, right, I'm going to copy you, Netflix. And that's when they acquired LoveFilm. And it was within a couple of years that they rebranded LoveFilm, rebranded the entire video on demand to Video Prime. So we had now Amazon Video Prime with all of its sort of associative, either transaction on demand or other subscription type modeling. But it was mostly transaction on demand. Meanwhile, let's say we're in 2010. Netflix is flying, and basically they're now on their international expansion. They went into Canada, they went into Latam, and they went to the Caribbean, and they're doing stonkingly good, really well. And then come 2013, we all know this. House of Cards lands. House of Cards. Then we get Orange is the New Black, and then we get Hemlock Grove. Meanwhile, you're seeing Amazon test the water with original content, and they're going out to their customers asking for some viewer feedback. So they're really starting to collect a lot of data on what is good, what is not good, and what they should just disband of. And then we get 2015, Amazon. What does Amazon get? A Golden Globe for Transparent. And then in 2016, it's
Yes.
amazing, isn't it? It's and so you already have got this backlog, not backlog, but this nice set of following at Netflix around House of Cards. You've got the Orange is the New Black, and then around about 2016, boom, almost 130 countries. Netflix launches shows in one single day. What happens over at Amazon headquarters? They hit 200 countries over a certain
Mhm.
period of time, but not in day one. They're not the risk takers, Amazon. They wait for Netflix to really make that move. So we come to 2017, and that's when you and I, Claire, start to hear the big dollar signs. We start to see billions being invested in original content by Netflix, and you get slowly. I think it was around 6 billion that was being spent, and you've got Amazon probably not even getting close to 2. And then all of a sudden, the Oscars are out there. You're getting some great feedback from the Oscar community in 2018 for Manchester by the Sea. And then you're starting to see really heavy spending in original, exclusive, and local content. We know the Money Heist in Spain, Netflix. So all we know is that these two are, one's going forward, the other one scales up, then retrenches a little, and then waits for the next sort of pioneering event. And of course, you've got now major TV series winning awards, and 2021 was basically the year for Netflix that secured The Crown and Bridgerton, and really did, make really hit the town red. And we started to see Amazon trying to figure out, what do we do next? We've got COVID, just coming out of COVID, and then they're saying, bugger, I'm going to spend a lot of money on the launch of the Rings of Power, and then I'm going to spend a hell of a lot more money on exclusive rights around the NFL nights. And then what does Netflix do? It starts to seriously consider sports. It starts to seriously consider live events. We had Chris Rock's stand up. And then we had this adjacent content around sports. They weren't really going into live at that stage, but they were certainly focusing on sports. And then, of course, the big investment that Netflix made around the gaming expansion. So pretty significant, I think. And you can see, Claire, can't you, in lockstep, how they're basically behaving, the leader follower. And if I were to just give one remark on what I kind of think is probably the best way to describe this, I think it's going to carry on. I think,
Mm.
I don't think Amazon will ever take risks. I think Amazon will wait. I think Amazon will probably still think about everything in relation to its entire retail ecosystem. So now we're seeing a lot of e-commerce related content. We're seeing a lot of e-commerce in shows. Emily in Paris is one of those, and then you're seeing Netflix, I think, just doubling down on a lot of things which was seen in their recent results, actually, which is around advertising technology, and really trying to ensure that they try to extract as much cash flow as they possibly can, because I think that's the thorn in the side of Netflix, or that's the Achilles heel of Netflix. I shan't spend too much time on going through their earnings, but they've had a sterling and stonking good Q1. It's the first time now that we're known and not going to share any subscriber numbers. ARPU could be interpreted, could be extrapolated to look good. They are tariff free. They're not exposed to China. They are a services-based company, but they've also got strong competition. And there's a hell of a lot of great shows coming out by the competitors, like Warner, for example. You've got Amazon really at their heels, as well as Max, of course, as we've said. There's a long list of shows. And the problem I think Netflix will face is their free cash flow. And that is always going to burden them. There was a leaked memo that showed their aspirations for 2030, which is we want to be 1 trillion valuation, we want 9 billion in ad revenue, we want to triple our operating income to 30 billion. Now that's probably going to be a tall order, and we're not really going to see too much by way of visibility on how they can do that, but they certainly are definitely doubling down on the advertising side. As I say, they've got their ad tech. So I just thought it was fascinating to look at it through the lens of Amazon. Claire, don't know what your thoughts are. I'm sure you've got a general view on Netflix, but it's kind of interesting to see this kind of classic strategic leader-follower strategy at play.
It's really interesting to look at it in that way. Thank you for that. That was fascinating to go back into history. But I think, and the way I would qualify it a little bit, I mean, that's first of all, I think there's a huge difference. So you've focused on the things that they've done that were exactly the same, which are a lot. And the huge difference is that Netflix is a pure play streamer, and Amazon is all about bundling. All their strategy has always been get the consumer in, get them whatever they want. Do they want books? We give them books. They want devices? We give them devices. They want content? We'll give them content. Let's look at how people are doing this, and let's do it better, cheaper, and then let's bundle it in. It's all about the bundle, because what does the bundle do? It kills the competition. And in fact, I was just looking it up as you were talking. In the US, I found that quite incredible. There are more Amazon Prime subscribers, Amazon Video subscribers through Prime than there are Netflix subscribers, which is just mostly by virtue of their incredible competition-killing bundling strategy. And they've managed to kill a lot of competition by using that strategy. Not quite Netflix, who has resisted quite well, I think, for various reasons. One of them is because they are a pure play, which Amazon isn't, and you can tell. And that's why Amazon is following and not leading. They're just looking at what people are doing. Two, Netflix, unlike Amazon, unlike Google, unlike Meta, is a content company. Whether we like it or not, they put content at the heart of what they do. We may not agree with everything that they do relating to content, but that it is in their DNA. Amazon has brought in a lot of very good content people through the years, and they've had some, as you've mentioned, some great successes, but it's not in their DNA. And I think, that's a very big difference. They'll never be quite accepted in the same way. They'll never be part of the industry in the same way. They'll never think about things in the same way. That being said, they've, it's interesting to look at their numbers, because Netflix, as you said yourself, spends twice as much on content as Amazon, for basically the same result in terms of subscriber number, because Amazon has all of the other stuff. Netflix also interestingly depends on Amazon for AWS, so they rely on the Amazon servers. And what I wonder is whether in the early days Amazon tried to buy Netflix. I mean, it was never public, but that tends to be in their playbook. Let's buy it, and if we can't buy it, let's replicate it, which is sort of what they did there. They might have decided it was already too expensive. But yeah, fascinating comparison. I will say one more thing that I found out about Netflix that I thought was that you would like, is that they have done a deal with OpenAI. Finally, one might say, finally done a deal with OpenAI so that they integrate ChatGPT into their search and discovery processes, so that now they're testing this at the moment, but you can do a natural language search saying, I'm feeling a bit tired and low after a long day at work, and I'd like something that's about, half an hour and quite fun. And these are my 3 favorite shows of the last 2 years. And Netflix will tell you what to watch. So that will be very interesting, and we'll be watching that with interest. That's it. That's me. Well, but really interesting comparisons. It's quite striking, those two companies, and how differently they've come to a very similar position.
One thing I want to pick up on, though, Claire, is your point, which I think you're hedging a bit, and that is, will Amazon buy Netflix? And I'm just wondering that.
No, I said I wondered whether they might have tried to in the past, but I don't know about the future.
Okay. And I just wonder, and it's something that we will monitor, I think, certainly of the course of the next year, and that is around this free cash flow and actually the returns on the cash invested. So it's not great. It's not great. Netflix is not doing a great job for its shareholders, actually. So I think Amazon is proving the point here that when they deploy cash, when they invest, they get significant returns for investment. So I'm just wondering, why would they? What's the attraction of acquiring Netflix when they are, as you say, a pure content play? I don't think Amazon will see the benefit of just having a pure content play when they're doing far better with their own.
But they acquired MGM, and they acquired MGM, and they acquired James Bond. They have acquired content. I don't think they would acquire it now. I was wondering whether they might have thought about acquiring instead of building back in the day when they were starting, because then it would have been, instead of us spending the time and effort to do it, we might have, as they did with LoveFilm, as they've done with many other companies. Why not? They acquired Goodreads, they acquired IMDb. They have acquired these businesses rather than building them. It's been part of their strategy. But I think now it's too late. I agree with you. I don't see the strategic rationale for it. They have, they already have 22% of the market in the US. They don't need it. But they might have thought at the beginning that it could be a shortcut, but maybe not.
I agree.
Okay. Good. Wow. Another great one. I like this, going back on household names and looking up the history, which of course is only a few years old, which is interesting. You only have to look back a few years when the world was completely different and we were getting DVDs in the post, which was quite exciting at the time, groundbreaking. Didn't last very long as a cultural phenomenon. I like the way, Maureen, that you assumed I haven't got an MBA and that Claire has. So I just want to put it on record that I definitely have not got an MBA and certainly wouldn't have the capability so to do, but I just wanted to make that clear just in case anyone had picked up that I was being excluded.
I don't technically have an MBA. I have a Master in Business Studies.
That's pretty close.
That's the same.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's the same.
It's close.
Yeah, I stopped at the bachelor's. In fact, I struggled to get as far as that. Anyhow, let's move on because we have to. And that was a great deep dive. Congrats, Maureen, and a great addition as well, Claire. Who knows what the next one will be. But for now, it's in the news. And as we all know, Claire Tavernier loves a report, and the people who
love a report.
I was going to say, and the listeners to the Media Beat love Claire's interpretation of the report, so they don't have to read the bloody things, and she can pick out all the interesting facts. She's been at it again, and this time she is standing outside the headquarters of Alex Partners, And they have something which sounds really exciting, which is a predictions report. Everybody loves a prediction. One, because they're exciting, and two, because you can come back in a year's time and go, good Lord, AlixPartners, you could have done better. Claire, what have you picked out of the report this time?
Oliver, in this case, you may actually want to go and download the report yourself because it's such a bumper one with lots and lots of information. But I will try to give it justice and give you the sort of the highlights of it. And the great news is a lot of the predictions that the report makes align with ours, Maureen. So look at us. Yeah, I know. It was so good. So the report is called the 2025 Media and Entertainment Industry Predictions Report from AlixPartner, and it talks about the key sectors in the media industry, streaming, gaming, advertising, etc. So here are a few highlights. Unsurprisingly, it continues to predict the decline of traditional pay television and the growth of SVOD and AVOD. They expect SVOD and AVOD revenues globally to surpass $165 billion in 2025, so pretty big. But they do point out, as we did several times, that the streaming market is highly, highly fragmented with over 200 platforms at the moment, which is much, much more than the market can sustain. So that's a big thing that they do. They have noted, as we have also, the surge in bundling and aggregation in terms of the way that people access those different platforms, and they expect that to continue to grow. So they say that by 2025, 60 to 70% of streaming subscriptions in mature markets will be purchased through wholesale distribution, aka a super bundler. So that's a lot. They expect generally broader industry consolidation. So they talk about 3 to 5, they call them central hubs. We call them super bundlers, but it's the same idea that people cannot deal with this number of platforms and they need a few places. And going back to what we were just talking about, Amazon is probably going to be one of these places. YouTube might be another one. Where everything is gathered. And one of the reasons is, one of the points that they make in the report is that there's this increasing frustration from the consumers that while there is enormous choice, they can't find anything. So discovery is highlighted as one of the key issues. They talk about only 28% of Americans and 21% of Europeans finding it easy to discover content. They talk about AI and its role in creative industries. I think what we're seeing is an emerging consensus that AI will not be replacing creatives, but they will be redefining their roles and creating and amplifying of some things and creating new synergies. They talk about the need for training in AI skills in creatives, which is a good business opportunity if anybody wants to put some money into something. They talk about the video gaming moving more and more to the cloud, and we've talked about this obviously in the past. They expect the console market and the PC hardware market to decline. Not good news for Nintendo and their Switch, but I think it's still happening, but it's not happening as fast as perhaps some other people thought. There's some really interesting things about search and the move away from Google with the increasing AI-driven platforms, OpenAI, Perplexity, and Amazon and TikTok, which are gaining huge traction in search. So it'll be interesting to see what that leaves for Google in terms of the search advertising market, because it may be that they obviously owned for so long, they may not own very much anymore. And they think that the media mergers market, the mergers and acquisition market, is going to be quite active this year. We also said that. I think you said that, Maureen. They talk about reduced regulatory scrutiny. They talk about lower capital costs. So they think that we're going to see quite a lot of those big consolidation deals. There's just too much. There's too much out there, and the consumer experience has to get better, and consolidation will be one way to provide that. So that's what I came out with. Did you find any other things that I missed? Probably, Maureen, because there was so much in this report.
Absolutely not. You just killed it, Claire. You killed it, Claire. You killed it. It's wonderful. It's amazing. But people should read it. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I mean, I align with most of the stuff that they've said, and of course they align with our predictions too.
So
One thing
that's why we like them.
that's
Yes.
why we like it. But one thing, and of course, we're going to tackle this in the next segment, and that is I don't believe the AI driven disruption in search where it will penalize Google to the extent that they're talking about. It will be definitely a function of the regulatory environment. I mean, they're talking about Google's share of the search advertising market is expected to decrease by low single digits. And I'm wondering whether Google will still hold the fort there and be pretty strong. So let's see. But it's going to be subject to AI folks and regulation. So let's see.
Lovely. Loads of predictions, mostly in line with the media beat. A couple of ones where they're not, which we can revisit. And then if we're wrong, we don't really need to revisit it. But I'm sure we won't be. We tend to be right. I say we, I mean you. Nicely laid out report, actually, as well. It's very easy to read. If you just click on it, it's really nicely done. Well done, AlixPartners, and your predictions. We have to move on. So we now have our roving reporter. Maureen is in her raincoat, unnecessarily, because the weather's lovely here. But she is reporting on the latest from the Google Meta antitrust affair, and she'll do that magical thing she does in making something that sounds like it might be a bit dull really interesting. So don't want to oversell it, but over to you, Maureen.
Right. So I think this is the US government is coming after big tech. That's my headline, and I think this time it is serious. This is about Google, and this is about Meta. And Google in particular has just faced enormous legal defeats in the last couple of years, back-to-back losses. So Google recently lost a second major antitrust case, this time over its dominance in online advertising. A federal judge did rule that it has illegally built a monopoly. I feel so sorry for Google. It's doing a bloody good business, and it's been told that it's illegal. Anyway, it has been seen to be harmful to publishers, competition, and consumers all round. So Google's really going to have to get its lawyers sharpening its pencils, and also previously, Google was also found guilty of anti-competitive practices in search. This is the reason why Claire was talking specifically about AlixPartners' report, where a lot of the AI companies now are pushing ahead, like Perplexity, OpenAI, and others that really want to steal a march on Google. And in particular, especially if Google needs to sell Chrome, OpenAI is definitely one of those disruptors that are in there to maybe pick it up if they're allowed to. So that's a potential disruptor in all of this sort of legal shenanigans that are going on. But it has faced quite significant defeats in the last couple of years. And then we've got Meta. Similarly, even though we had all of the representatives from these two companies there at the inauguration of Donald Trump's presidency, front row, might I say, the government is still going after both companies. So Meta has also got some antitrust woes. The FTC, which is the competition authority, wants Meta to break up as well, citing monopolistic behavior in the social networking environment due to the acquisitions not only of Instagram but also WhatsApp. So we're really seeing an attack on both of these companies from an antitrust monopolistic perspective. It looks like there's no real competition for Meta. People are citing sort of Snapchat and MeWe and whatnot, but these are not formidable enough. So I think Zuckerberg really is in a tough situation in order to sort of fight some of these legal issues and these legal risks. And it does probably need to consider whether or not it will have to break up its business too. So you've got both Google and Meta having to fight the antitrust movement against them, and there could possibly be some breakups there. So watch this space, but both in the crosshairs of Trump, which is kind of interesting. We're not going to make this political, but the US government is gunning after big tech.
Yes, I mean, you've just summarized it so well. I don't think I have much to add, but it is interesting because there is this tension, isn't it, between, and we can't be political, but it's hard not to in this case. There is clearly a Department of Justice push, which is regulatory and it's, in theory at least, completely independent of the presidency, and actually started under Biden. But there is also, Trump himself has actively pushed his supporters against specifically Meta and Google. Uh, they've tried, both of them, to ingratiate themselves with the new administration. It doesn't seem to have quite worked yet. There is something about them being just too big, and that the breakup, may not be a bad idea even for them. They may maximize shareholder values by breaking up. So it may be a good thing for everybody, but we're very far from being there yet, and there's a lot of legal fights before we get there. But interesting, this big push this last couple of weeks against two very, very large companies, and obviously in the context of AI changing the business model as we speak. We've just talked about Google perhaps losing market share and not being so dominant anymore in certain areas. So that's another factor to take into consideration.
Well, we love a story that'll run and run here on the Media Beat, and that's one of them. Maureen, brilliant summation there. Very, very good. But that, yes, fight between big tech and government goes on. And no doubt you'll be back outside the headquarters of Google, Meta, and obviously on Capitol Hill to report for us as this story unravels. And now we move to Ryan Coogler, American filmmaker Ryan Coogler. He has made a deal, which Claire is now going to explain and tell us of its significance. Claire, your story.
Yes, well, Ryan Coogler is a famous, well-known, very commercially successful film director in the US who happens to be black, and it is part of the story behind this deal. He has just had a big movie come out called Sinners, which was very, very well received by the critics and in fact by audiences, and did quite well. But the trade press has been focusing on the fact that the deal that he made with the studio, with Warner Brothers, for Sinners is not quite unprecedented, but certainly a very, very good deal. And there are three key parts to this deal. The first one is that Coogler retains full creative control. I mean, this is the stuff that directors dream about and very few get. Full creative control over the finished film. That's not the first time, people like Scorsese get full creative control over their films most of the time. Tarantino gets that, etc. But it's very rare. He also gets what is called the first dollar gross, which means that he gets a share of revenues from the box office from the first dollar. There's normally what the deal is that the studios have to recoup their costs, or some costs, not always all costs, but certain costs before directors and talent and everybody starts sharing in the revenues. But this is not the case. This is a first dollar gross deal, which is very rare. Again, it's usually really reserved for the very big stars that you absolutely want on board. But perhaps most significantly, and the thing that people are getting nervous about, is that the film's rights will revert to Coogler after 25 years. Now, he's quite a young guy, so 25 years is be slightly less attractive to a Clint Eastwood or Martin Scorsese, but for him, it makes complete sense. So basically, in 25 years, he will own the movie. Warner Brothers will no longer have it. So they essentially have a 25-year license, and they still pay for the whole thing. Those are very, very unusual terms for movies in Hollywood, where studios will typically, that's their business, is to retain long-term ownership of the movies. I think it represents, it's not unprecedented. People like Tarantino, some of the major film stars, actors have had some similar massive deals, but it's a very good deal. It's certainly the first time a black creative's had such a good deal, which is great news for the industry as a whole and black creatives. It also represents the shift towards talent, the importance of talent. And I am very much of the belief that more and more of the value chain, the financial value chain of the creative industries in general, and certainly of film, is going into talent, whether it's on screen talent, actors, etc., or behind the scenes talent, because of the issue with discovery, because of the issue with the escalating costs and the fear of of failure, it is felt like a much safer deal to bet. Nobody's ever going to get fired because they bet on Ryan Coogler, is basically the point. Whereas you might get fired if you bet on somebody who's never made a movie, may not need the same deal, but may also not get the same sort of response. So it's an interesting new deal, or certainly a sort of renewal of the faith of Hollywood and creative. It comes at a time where there's been a lot of obviously strikes and labor fights by directors and actors, etc. And I think it's people see it as emblematic. That's why it's been reported so widely. It's not as new and unprecedented as some people have said, but it certainly is a sign of changed times. Is my view. What do you think? Have you seen Sinners, Maureen?
I haven't yet seen it, but I've been listening to all the chatter, and one thing, this is I'm going to be the rebuttal here.
Okay.
I don't think Sinners, he is absolutely amazing, right? He's a unicorn that's really riding the wave, right? So he's so bankable, he's so commercial, he's so original, and anything he touches, is really good. So there's no doubt, But will this be? Is it a one-off, or is it a real game changer? In my view, I think it's a one-off. I think it's flirting at the edges of maybe, reassessing and reevaluating the Hollywood model. But I don't think this is a game changer. I really do believe that it's just a beautiful exception, and not a new blueprint. And I think the reason for that is probably twofold. One is, I don't think Hollywood is in the business of risk taking so
No.
much so. He can probably walk in to a studio's offices and walk out with an $80 million check, and all of the contractual obligations around that fall to the studio, not to him, for sure. But I don't think there are many of him that can do that realistically. And I also think that the Hollywood is still very much about IP, and still very much really wincing at the streaming environment, which is also a pressure valve. So I love the idea that this is sort of shaking up, and being gossipy, and it's being, this could be the new model. And talent, I think, is at the heart of this. You're absolutely right. But I really do believe that the studios have still got some leverage here, and a lot of skin in the game. It is a remarkable deal for sure. But I do believe this is not the blueprint going forward, as my rebuttal. Not that you're saying that,
Yeah.
it's the market that's saying that.
I
Not
mean,
that
I
you're
agree
saying that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. It's not the model going forward, but it may be, but we may see more of these things.
Elements of it.
I will see. I will say two things about Kugler to finish. I've just looked up his age. He's 38. Do you tell me? Do you want to guess how how much money his films, excluding Sinners, his films have grossed in total since he started?
Ooh.
And remember, he's done the Black Panther movies.
Yeah,
He's got the Creed movies.
okay. Then we're into a couple of billion then. So he's
2.4 billion. That's quite good, Maureen. You're
it's
wearing
darn
the
good.
money there.
It really is good. But what I'm saying, there are not many of him. As I say,
No, there
he's
really
a
are.
unicorn.
Yeah.
That's why I called him a unicorn. He is a unicorn in Hollywood. He truly
Yeah.
is. And there aren't many of those. And you need more of the unicorns. You need 30, 40 unicorns in order to really shake up the
Yes.
studio system. But I we are not worthy. We are not worthy, as Wayne's World, Mike Myers would do in the film analogy. But no, I agree with you. It's amazing. 38 years old. Oh my God.
I know. I feel old now. Let's move on.
Yeah, well done. Gosh, blimey, well done, Mr. Coogler. Just trying to remember how useless I was at 38. Pretty standard to what I am now. So that was a great segment, but we come to the end. That was in the news. It's fast, it's furious, it's exciting, it's creative. What is it? It's Podmojis. And so let's go with this quickfire round. And we will start with Maureen with the news that Reddit has exceeded its expectations, or people's expectations of it. What does that mean? And how does that make you feel Podmoji-wise, Maureen?
Okay, so the Reddit results are not out until May 1st, but there's definitely information out there with regards to the 2024 numbers. But it's the Q1 numbers that everyone's going to focus on. So we should fast forward to our next podcast, and we can talk about exactly what Reddit has done. But by far, really good numbers, excellent numbers, even though it's off 50% or so off its share price when it first launched and when it did the first IPO. It's doing a stonkingly good thing. So 2024 numbers, two things to think about. Great license deal with Google, and the license deal being Gemini is allowed to look at, Gemini being the OpenAI, the equivalent to OpenAI, looking at all the data associated with the conversations on Reddit. So they get $60 million per year as a license fee for that. Really good stuff. And another is they're just doing great stuff with respect to advertising. So I'll stop there and I'll think, Reddit, you're doing a great job. Can't wait to see your numbers on May 1st. And my Podmoji is my glasses.
Of course, it's a pair of spectacles. The most the most adaptable spectacles in the Western Hemisphere. Very good. Thank you, Maureen. Over to you. And it's a teddy bear. Claire. There's a teddy bear.
There's a teddy bear where I am. I don't know why teddy bear. Oh look, I have a unicorn. I should have gotten that for Ryan. Look. But actually, Reddit is a little bit of a unicorn. I think what I love about Reddit is its pure play nature. It's a pure play. It does what it does. It does it really well. It hasn't tried to change the formula. It has refined the formula. It's not that different from what we discussed about Netflix, and improved it, but it hasn't tried to do any other thing. It's an advertising funding business. It's doing great. We like it very much, and they seem quite normal as well there. Maybe we're wrong, but it's quite reassuring. So yeah, I've got a unicorn emoji. There you go.
Unicorn, a bear waving her arms around. Very exciting indeed. Yeah, you can tell Reddit's doing well.
We're happy. We're Reddit fans here.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, when you Google something now, it's so often it's on Reddit where you get some of the best answers. Okay, moving on. Claire, sticking with you, the Minecraft movie. If Reddit is doing well, then the Minecraft movie seems to be doing very, very well.
The Minecraft movie is doing incredibly well, and people are quite surprised by it. So, a Minecraft movie, a movie from Warner Brothers, has come out as basically the top film of 2025 so far. It has shattered all expectations. It's earned over $300 million globally in its first 3 days. And this is against Warner Brothers' expectation and prediction of 130 million. So basically more than doubling the expectation. And the expectation is that it will reach $1 billion. And everybody who's not 13, I guess, is like thinking, what is going on? Because it has been panned critically. I can't say that I've watched it, but what it does is it does the full quadrant. It has brought young men to the movies, young boys that normally don't go to the movies. It's brought family to the movies. It's the thing you can go on a Saturday afternoon when there's nothing to do. It's just brought families back to the movies in a way that actually nothing has recently. So obviously it's a huge franchise. People have really embraced it, and they've come dressed as Minecraft blocks, etc., in the way that they've done as well with the Minions. So there's a whole merchandise aspect to it. Listen, it's worked. It's not a sequel, although it is a franchise. I think good for them. I'm happy. Should I put the unicorn back up?
It's Might as
unicorn.
Well. Another unicorn, which
Minecraft.
Sounds slightly counterintuitive. It's like a whole crowd of unicorns, but by their very nature, they shouldn't be. But whatever. I think that's a perfectly reasonable, Podmoji. Maureen, you look thoughtful, okay. Pensive even.
Yeah. So pensive, right? So 2 points then to make, because that was a super opening, Claire. So it out-opened the Super Mario Bro movie. Brilliant. It needed 375 million to break even. It's currently at 720 million. So nearly doubled that already. And it's probably going to hit maybe 5.6 times by the run's end. But absolutely, Claire, you're right. So despite lukewarm critical reviews, 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, audiences are flocking to it. So 87% has audience score and a massive cultural momentum, as Claire pointed out. Their viral moments, their TikTok memes. This is kind of the Barb Barbie, Oppenheimer kind of moment that we're seeing. And the fun fact here then is, along with films like The King of Kings, it truly has invigorated the Q2. So all the cinemas are feeling good about themselves.
And may I trouble you to use a different pair of glasses? Same pair of glasses, but put on with a slightly different emphasis, with relish, and two big thumbs. Not big thumbs, two thumbs of average size for a human. So that's very good. A very imaginative use of thumbs and glasses. So yeah, Minecraft movie. I suppose the Lego movie did quite well as well, that people didn't really expect. I guess it's a little bit like that. People love Lego, people love Minecraft. I don't know. Social media shorts are the new TV guide, says Claire Tavernier, and I can imagine what you mean by that.
Well, I don't say it. It was an article in the Hollywood Reporter, which developed this thesis which caught my eyes, that short form video content, especially TikTok style shorts, has become the primary way younger audiences discover new TV shows, or not actually new TV shows, movies, and sports. And we've just talked about the problem with discovery, and this really caught my eye because I've realized that I discover movies, TV shows, and shorts on social media platforms, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, etc. That a lot of what I've discovered recently, or rediscovered, because there'll be a clip of a movie I've seen a long time ago, and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I should watch this again, or maybe. So yes, I think this is not entirely surprising. It's basically AI telling us what, or the algorithm telling us what they think we should watch, and as they know us so well, they're correct. And what I was interested in this report is that it talks about younger audiences. I think that's wrong. I think that's everybody. But they do say that 71% of Gen Z consumers now find content through social media platforms, which really, if we're a company that produces or distributes content, you should really be thinking about this. They talk a lot about sports and how sports short form clips are actually driving viewers back to the long form, which is interesting. That's an area that's been a bit more studied, so they have some data. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting, so I'm putting my interesting Putmoji face on.
The classic Claire, interesting, and there she goes. That's a beautiful one as well today. Yes,
I thought on this.
Very good. 2 unicorns and a thoughtful. Maureen.
So what it triggered in my mind was, and Claire, you'll remember this, Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman. Do you remember Quibi?
Yeah, I remember them.
They invested 1.75 billion in a company called Quibi, and they were all about short form content, which would be basically clip and TikTokable and YouTube, basically focused on content under 10 minutes. They only survived for 6 months, having spent 1.7.
Yeah, but their strategy was completely wrong. They were creating lots of. Well, anyway, we should do a deep dive on Quibi.
We should as well. But Claire, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So 5 years on, we're moving in the same similar direction, but not quite, which is your point. What did they do wrong, Claire?
Oh, well, they were trying to create those short form series. I mean, not that you can't do this, but the market wasn't ready for it, and they weren't ready for it on a platform that nobody had ever heard of. You are either a new platform or you're a new production company, but you can't try to create both the content and the platform at the same time, and it failed. I think what we're seeing now, those platforms do exist. They have enormous power. They have the distribution, and we're seeing some original content, some of it doing very well. Not much of it scripted, to be honest. It still remains very much the sort of blog influencer type content, comedy content that does well. The whole idea of short form scripted content, there have been some successes, but they've been few and far between. But it's become about reusing existing content in a really clever and consumable way for these platforms, which I think is very interesting. It's finding that little reaction shots that was in that movie on that day, until that people start sharing it, until the point where you're like, oh, maybe we should watch that movie. I remember that moment. And yeah, anyway, so Quibi was hubris to the 9th degree. I have no time for that. But yes, anyway.
It sprung to mind, but I agree with you here. It's fantastic vignettes that really help with the discovery of either a TV program or a film. I love it. I think it's great. And about time too that the media industry is using their own made IP for marketing purposes, discoverability to address an audience, that they're sought after. So,
And
they've been seeking after. And my pop emoji is, I agree with Claire.
oh, brilliant! A pair of specs, yes, of course. What better? Orange tinted spectacles on top of.
So Claire's allowed to use a unicorn twice.
Yes, no, it's perfectly. Well, I don't know.
My tinted glasses, my orange tinted glasses, twice.
Quite
Thrice.
low scores today. 106 and a half.
Look at that.
And there's a
I love
French
that.
dog.
I think
Oh, that's nice, that.
I think you should take the podcast in that room every time, Claire.
Yes, not just because of Wi-Fi strength, but that'll all be lost in the wonders of the edit. So scores not very high, 106 and a half to Maureen, but Claire, you get 106 and a half. So congratulations, first equal, gold medal.
Thank you so much.
And the auditors are in to make sure that I've got those scores right. Congratulations. We've got to the end of a fabulous episode. Love the Netflix bit. Interesting news as well going on. Running stories and one-offs. Great filmmakers making great deals and a lot of pop emojis and reuse. Thank you so much. Maureen, bye-bye for now.
Bye, Oliver. Bye,
And
Claire.
Claire, bye-bye for now.
Goodbye, Oliver. Goodbye, Maureen. And goodbye, everyone.
And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.